All right, another unprofessional video from Bob Hollandshed's garage. Somebody told me this weekend I got to make some more videos. I didn't think anybody was watching my videos, but anyways, well, what's going on in the garage right now? I'm assembling an engine. It is 60 over 454. It's going together. I don't know if anybody's interested in this, but I gotta start. There's a little backstory to this engine. This engine was in a 1973 Chevelle SS 4-speed car. Came original from the factory in the car. And in 1984, I had a Nova with a really budget-built small block in it. 350, re-ringed, taper in the cylinders, new bearings, General Kinetics 270 cam, camel hump heads, 194 valves, lapped in, and just thrown together. Garbage, really, but for a 17-year-old kid, I don't know. We thought we had something. Did have some decent headers on it. C3B intake, I think that's the number from Edelbrock. It was before they came out with the Performer series. And a 600 Holley carb. Turbo 350 transmission, shift kit, 8.5-inch 10-bolt rear end with a factory posi and 354 gears. And the car did seem to go pretty darn good. 5.0 Mustangs weren't a problem for it. Anyways, long story short, the Chevelle that this was in was out. There was a small little quarter mile marked out in one of the country roads here that we'd go and run our cars down. And I ran a Camaro out there, and I beat the Camaro. And another car beat the Camaro. Anyways, the Chevelle, Slanch was the owner of the car. I can't remember his real name. But anyways, we call him Slanch. He put the Chevelle up on the starting line, and I ran him. And the Nova got out in front of him, and he shut his car down. And he said, he gave some kind of excuse, let's try it again. So we lined the cars up again and left the starting line, and I'll be damned, I pulled out in front of him again. And keep in mind that I think these were rated at like 250 horsepower stock, but he did have a 292 cam in it. There was a Performer intake on it, headers. So I had some upgrades. It was a 4-speed car, probably better gearing than my car. It should have just freaking waxed the Nova. But anyways, that was it for that night. And I don't know, many years later, I'm doing work on another friend's car, and he ended up with this engine. And he said, I really don't have a use for it. You got a use for it. I said, well, I'll take it, So I took it in on trade. Tore it down. Did have a forged crank in it. 049 heads. I think they were a 1 or 2 year only large oval port. They've got the biggest exhaust ports of the oval port castings. They're good heads. But anyways, so this is now, it's 60 over. I got an Eagle 4340 crank, H-beam Eagle 4340 rods, 8740 bolts, not the real expensive ones. The machine work was done by Jeff Muck up at North Central Engine. He lives, I don't know, about an hour west of me in Lance. Let's see what else does this have on it. It's got Rollmaster timing chain. It's got the Made in Germany IWS chain, 9 keyway or whatever. I'll flip it over here if I can one-handed. SRP 23cc dome pistons. I did make a chimney for the valley here. We built my son's 377. When we did the small block, it was a lot easier because you could, put in them threaded deals in the valley. But this, I don't know, it took me one evening to do this. I don't know if it'll help. But this is also going to have EDM lifters. Each lifter is going to has a 26 thousandths oiling hole in it. They're from Jones Cams. So it's going to have quite a bit of oil whipping around in there. And I figured, well, I'm going to try and deal with windage as best possible because big blocks especially are noted for having windage issues. This is all spot welded, but then I took body solder. It's soldered together. It's all sealed up. A little bit of silicone right around the stacks here on the bottom and it bolted in. And then I added a big drain hole behind here carefully so I didn't get into any of the oil galleries. Empties out on top of the cam gear. The rings are Hastings Molly rings. This isn't a low friction setup, even though I did put the old beam style torque wrench on it last night and rolled it over, and it looks like the drag is only about, I don't know, it rolls pretty easy. It's like 25 foot-pounds to roll it over, which for big 5/64 rings, it's probably pretty good. It's pretty close to zero deck. It does have a pretty shiny deck surface. It's smooth because I'm going to run Cometic MLS gaskets in it. And but that's it for the short block. Oh, the cam it's a comp cam. It was spec'd by Terry Walters, and he used, I believe he used David Vizard's program for picking the camshaft out. So I figured I'd give that a whirl. I don't know. It's actually a little smaller than what I was thinking in my head I was going to put in here. I was thinking I'd put something like 250 duration on the intake and 255 on the exhaust. I'm trying a solid lifter cam in the setup. It's not a roller, so there's going to be some braking involved, and I'm hoping that goes well. I'm really tired. It sounds like I'm slurring my words. But there's the cam specs, if I can find them here. Yeah, 242 at 50, 653 lift on the intake with Scorpion 1.8 rockers, and 631 lift, 250 degrees duration at 50 on the exhaust. And that's the oil pan. I did have to modify it. For steering clearance, I had to section out about an inch off the front edge of the sump. I did add it back in. I made this piece to go on the side. So it's still an 8-quart pan. I'll probably only run 6 quarts. This does have the screened windage tray there. That bolts in the side here. I got to get that in there. And there's also a baffle I made. Covers the sump area. And this is going to go, after the oil pump's installed, this is going to get located on a couple of studs. So I think windage is going to be controlled really well with this, especially if I only run 6 quarts in the pan. The heads, that's I got my break-in springs in there right now, but these are 049 castings. You see they were cast in 72. Came out of Chevelle. Yeah, there's a casting number. 049. But these started out with 206 intake valves. I can't remember. I think 176 was the exhaust size. Yeah. And they've been ported. I did the porting on them. They've now got 2 1/4 inch intakes, 188 exhaust. These are Manley severe duty valves, and these are the exhausts are Inconel, I think you pronounce it. But they've had a lot of work. I think it took 38 cc's of material out of each intake port. I spent a lot of time researching how to make these work to their, well, as close as I get to their fullest potential. Had some help with that. Mark Jones, Fortec Pro out of, I don't know, I think he's in Texas now. He used to be out of Colorado. Sent me a bunch of cutaway photos from some Lingenfelter heads, I do believe, that were ported. But they definitely showed the thicknesses in different areas and what was done on them. I guess he was a big fan of them heads. It's all been mocked up. You can see I had to do some cutting on the guide plates, repositioning, welded them back up. Didn't want to get too much heat up into the tips here, so that's where I made my welds in that area. But they're dialed in, they're right on. You can see how narrow the sweep is. There's still marks on some of these. Eh? It's hitting not dead center, but it's in the center third. It's just off a center a little bit, which is going to be fine. I left it a burr finish. You can see how rough it is. Wish I could, my flashlight can show in there. Grab my flashlight real quick if I can find it. Some people might think it's somewhat interesting. But in here, I don't know if you can see well, but the short side turn, the curve of the short side radius or short side turn exactly matches the valve diameter of a 2.25 inch valve. That's the curve I used. And it's just it's a starting point, and it usually ends up working pretty well from what I hear. Buddy of mine had some Profiler 290 port heads, and I took a look at the short side on them. That was an oval port casting, and pretty sure, yeah, it was oval port. But Darren Morgan developed them heads. I casted the short side turn actually with some body filler, sprayed some WD-40 as a release agent, and I just wanted to see what the curve was like in there. And it matched the intake valve diameter perfectly. So it kind of gave me some indication I was on the right track here. There is the test head I did, I ported, I sent out to Charlie Cervedeo, I think is pronounced. He's down in Florida, and he flow tested them. And there's actually a thread on Speed Talk about critiquing these heads. He tried to make some changes and stuff that didn't really get anywhere. They were doing really good as it was, but at 600 lift, the good part was flowing 341, and it still carries on past 600. 353 at 7, 356 at 8. It does drop after 8, but I mean, my cam's lift range is going to be in here for peak lift. And without the CFM dropping off, it's telling me that the port size is probably pretty decent. As far as match, because usually if the port isn't sized right, especially around a short side turn area, the flow it starts backing up and going backwards. But yeah, there's different specs when I mapped out the cam. Let's see, what else can I? Oh, main bearing specs were. I got 3000s on the first three mains. Number 4 is 3000s and 2/10. and the rear main's 3.5 thousandths, so which is really good. Let's see, it's a tight lash cam. It's only 16 thousandths and 18 thousandths lash. What else? Well, the rod bearing clearance is just right around 2.5. They were measuring 2 6/10 to 2 8/10. So that's where I wanted it. Hoping to be. It took a little bit to get there though. I tried these King bearings first, and they're 10X's, and they were way too big a clearance. And then I tried these are some high dollar bearings, King Racing. They're PMAX coated bearings, and I wasn't real happy with these. The upper bearings, the tang is located in the wrong spot, so the bearing halves are offset by about 50 thousandths. Considering the frickin' price on these, they should have been lined up better than anything else I tried. But they weren't. And in fact, one of the bearing ends doesn't even look like it's square cut. Tends to want to cock the bearing in the bore, which told me I'm not going to use these fucking pieces of junk made in Israel. Bolt stretch on the rods is all between 5 thousandths and 9/10 to 6 thousandths and 3/10, and everything was torqued with ARP lube. It's going to get ARP head bolts. I got the ARP sealant because they're going to go in the water jacket, them bolts. What else here? The cam. I'm using driven assembly grease on the cam. The cam's been nitrated. I've got Jones lifters with the 26 thousandths EDM hole. I'm going to cross my fingers. I'm going to be breaking this in with 120 pounds on the seat and a little over 300 open pressures, which a lot of people are saying way too high, but you definitely have to have enough pressure to make the lifters turn, and they should turn with that. It's going to get run with the break-in springs and Harlan Sharp 1.7 rockers to start. Probably going to cut the valve covers open so I can get a look at the push rods and watch them, make sure they're all turning. And then, once I'm satisfied and the lash isn't changing, everything's happy, then I'll put the final springs. I've got PAC 1220X beehive springs with nice little tiny lightweight retainer on the top, which them heavy 2¼ inch valves, 3/8 stem valves, they need all they can help as far as getting some weight down, because I'm hoping to spin it to 7, hoping it makes enough power to make sense spinning it to 7. If not, I'll shift it sooner, but I want good valve stability. And the PAC springs are going to deliver, let's see, 160 pounds on the seat and a little under 400 pounds of open pressure, which is high for a solid flat tappet, but people do it. And we're going to see if it works. If it wipes it out, I guess I'm going to save some pennies and put a roller cam in it. But I don't know, for some reason I'm thinking this is going to work out. We'll see. I'll do another video. I'll show you the carnage if there's any, and show you the success if that's there too. But as far as intakes go, I'm going to break the engine in with Victor Junior intake and 1000 HP carb. I've got some 2-inch primary headers for it. But I also have a nice Wiend Teleram intake with 2 650 doubles I want to try on the engine as well. And hoping this thing gets put on a dyno so we can get some tuning there. I want to check the valve stability. air-fuel ratio. Maybe do some timing tests. I think it's going to need about 38 degrees timing, maybe 40 with these old chamber heads. But I don't know if it makes 1.3 horsepower per cube. That's 608 horsepower, and I think it might be a good enough build to do that. I'd be really happy if it made more than that, but I'll tell you the truth, I don't know if it made 550. I'd be happy with that too. But we'll see what happens. The heads, the flow on the heads would support, well, in theory, in a max effort build with some good compression and the right camshaft, about 720 horsepower. So I know the heads aren't going to be a limiting factor. It's probably going to be the cam. It's only going to be 10-to-1 compression. That's all you get with a 23cc dome and 110 combustion chamber. But that's enough. We're great for pump gas, and that's what this is. I'm going to be driving it, you know. Nearest racetrack's 3.5 hours away. Be lucky to get there once a year. But that's it. That's the realities of this build. And yeah, after the pack springs are in and happy with the 1.7 Harlan Sharp rockers, then I'm going to put on the Scorpions. I got 1.8 for the intakes and 1.7 for the exhaust. Interesting thing about the Scorpion rockers, 1.8s, are that if you measure the net lift of what they deliver, they actually deliver a 1.87 ratio. So, I don't know, heavy seat pressures, heavy over the nose pressures, pretty big ratio, heavy valves. I don't know, I got my fingers crossed. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to nurse this along through the break-in stages though. I'm going to warm the oil up to 200 degrees. The oil will be primed, you know, the engine will be primed. And they're going to warm the oil up to 200 degrees. We're going to fire it off. Probably run it for just 5 minutes, maybe 10. I don't want things getting too hot. We're going to let it cool down. I'm going to check lash, make sure everything's rotating. Nothing's getting devoured. And then we'll run it for another 5-10 minutes. And I'm going to keep doing that until I'm feeling comfortable with how things are going. And then we'll progress to the next step as far as increasing valve spring pressure, and then ultimately putting the higher ratio rockers on after that. But I don't know, you only live once. These are the parts I have to work with, and that's what we're going to try. Maybe I'll do another video and show you the inside of this pan before it goes on. Well, I can kind of give you a shot. I had a few really smart guys look at what I did here, and they were pretty impressed. This has got two trap doors in it. This fits in here like so. There's nutserts. It's got to be pulled down. I've got plenty of drain areas, but we got to keep that sump protected. And then the screen goes in here, you know. Up in here, and then this goes on the oil pump. Once the oil pump goes on, that's going to be on the engine, and I think it's going to work well. If you notice, you see a lot of big block dyno tests done, and they lose oil pressure, but the higher RPMs, it just starts going backwards. Talking with some really smart guys that specialize, especially in super stock cars and stuff that's got to run stock pans. I don't know if that's a stock up here in muscle cars. They're running 5-quart pans with only 4 quarts of oil because they got to deal with the windage. Big block is terrible for windage issues, and it can mean well, there's dyno tests out there that show 60 horsepower loss once that oil starts slinging around and getting roped up into the crank. As far as assembly lubes go, I used I don't know, I started using this engine assembly loop, Ultra Slick. I've used that before in some Seal Power stuff. But as far as the bores go for the rings, I just wiped in some 2-stroke engine oil. Want nice light oil in there. And it's another thing that's going to be interesting too. To break this engine in right, you should really have a load on it. And we're not going to have that on my test end. It's going to get fired up, and I'm going to run it as long as I need to run it until I'm happy that the cam survived and break-in went okay. But that's not going to be great for the ring seal. Yeah, I mean, regardless, eventually the rings are going to break in, but it may actually take longer. If this goes on a dyno, it's probably going to have to get loaded hard just to get them rings wore to a point where they're seated well. I don't know. But then again, my son's 377 we just put together last year. Boy, that thing seemed like it was sealed up right off the bat, and we used 2-stroke oil in them bores, and boy, that thing wasn't smoking. There's nothing. I mean, no complaints. Everything went just super on that engine. Casting number on the block. I can show that real quick. It's a 289 block. And that was also cast in 72. So, yeah, 049 heads. Basically the same as the 781. Everything got a bigger exhaust port. And I didn't open the exhaust ports up at all because they're plenty big enough. I just did a little bit of bowl work because we increased the valve size. Yeah, this is what's going on here today. Hopefully we'll fire it off soon. I'm gonna get the heads on, but I figured if I'm gonna make a video on this, I better do it so you guys can look down the bores and critique what you see there, and call me an idiot for trying to use a flat tappet cam in 2026. I don't care. That's what I got. We're going to try it. And we'll go from there. Hope everybody's projects are going good, and have a great week.